What's going on, everyone? Week 7 in the NFL is here, so you know what that means. I'm coming at you with my weekly NFL picks, outright, against the spread, along with my locks of the week. So let's get right into it. Kicking things off, we have the Denver Broncos at the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday night. The Broncos are at 2-4, while the Cardinals are at 1-5. Both teams coming off of losses. The Broncos lost 23-20 versus the Rams, but that game wasn't realistically as close as the score indicated, since the Broncos were down by 10 points late in the fourth quarter and got that late touchdown towards the end of the game and then had to rely on an onside kick. While the Arizona Cardinals, they lost to the Minnesota Vikings kind of as expected. So when looking at this matchup, now the Cardinals do have a little bit of an advantage that it is a home game. Would be a lot more difficult for them if they had to go on the road, play in Denver. That is a tough environment. But regardless, look, I still think this game comes down to quarterback experience. It's a rookie in Josh Rosen versus Case Keenum. Keenum has enough weapons around him. I give the edge offensively to the Denver Broncos, primarily because of the quarterback position. I realize that the best player on the field will be David Johnson, but he hasn't exactly had the kind of season that we would hope for. And defensively, I still think the Broncos have enough big names on that defense to rattle Josh Rosen, probably force a turnover or two. So for that reason, I like the Broncos outright. On the spread, Cardinals are plus 2.5 at home. I think that should be a little bit higher, so I will take the Broncos on the spread as well. Next up, we have got our second London game of the year with the Tennessee Titans versus the LA Chargers. No real home advantage here. And looking at this matchup, the Titans 3-3 after getting shut out by the Baltimore Ravens last week, 21-0, complete defensive domination. While the LA Chargers took care of business versus the Browns, they had a great offensive performance. So when looking at this matchup, I have to start with the offenses. The Chargers are just so much more loaded offensively. Phillip Rivers playing leaps and bounds better than Marcus Mariota. Honestly, Phillip Rivers right now could be considered in the MVP race, maybe top 5 guys as far as the quarterback position is concerned. And he has got a plethora of offensive weapons. Melvin Gordon is having an amazing year. Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams, they're all still there. So for that reason, I give the edge offensively to the Chargers, led by the quarterback in that passing attack. Defensively, look, I think no matter for the most part what defense Marcus Mariota goes up against, he's usually good for at least one turnover. He's still not in that upper echelon quarterback tier for me. So for that reason, even if the defenses is a wash here, I prefer the Chargers. I give them the slight edge because I think Mariota is more likely to commit some turnovers here. So I'll take the Chargers outright. On the spread, -6.5 for the Chargers. I'm going to go ahead, say they can go ahead, win by a touchdown, take the over, as they are complete offensive juggernaut. Continuing on, we've got the Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts. Both teams coming off of losses. The Bills 2-4 after a tough loss versus the Houston Texans, where Josh Allen also got injured, while the Indianapolis Colts found themselves on the losing end of an offensive showdown versus the New York Jets. So when looking at this matchup, the biggest thing to me is the fact that Josh Allen won't be available. So Derek Anderson most likely to start for the Buffalo Bills at quarterback. And as crazy as it sounds, I actually think he'll be the best quarterback they've had available so far into the season, even though he was a late signing to Buffalo. And I really like the chemistry he will likely have with Kelvin Benjamin from their days in Carolina. So I actually think the Buffalo Bills can get something going offensively here, more so than what we've seen before. And the Indianapolis Colts, look, we know what to expect from them. Andrew Luck has been playing great. Even with guys like T.Y. Hilton out and Jack Doyle. So I still have faith in that Indianapolis offense. I like them more so overall, primarily because I have Andrew Luck over Derek Anderson, even though to me Anderson is an upgrade for Buffalo at the quarterback position. Neither of these defenses really scares me too much. I would go ahead and say maybe slight advantage to Indianapolis because Derek Anderson isn't 100% accustomed to that scheme and system that Buffalo runs. So overall, I like the Colts to win this game outright at home, but the spread -6.5, a little bit high for me here. Because Derek Anderson is a starting quarterback, I will actually go ahead, give the Buffalo Bills the benefit of the doubt and say they can go ahead and make this a tighter game than people expect, so I will take the Bills on the spread. Moving on, we have got the New England Patriots at the Chicago Bears. Both of these teams coming off dramatic showdowns. The only difference is the New England Patriots were victorious in theirs. They're at 4-2 after that incredible matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs that went down to the wire. Tom Brady again proving why he should be an MVP pretty much every single year and why the Patriots shouldn't be forgotten about in the AFC. While the Chicago Bears, they're at 3-2 after pretty much finding numerous ways to lose that game versus the Miami Dolphins, in which Ryan Tannehill didn't even start, but Brock Osweiler still undefeated versus the Chicago Bears, and that defense just didn't show up for the Bears. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust now going back home and facing the New England Patriots, because the matchup is not an easy one. And if I had to go ahead and put my money on it, I think the Patriots offensively can outplay that Bears defense and make them look somewhat average. Even though this is a road game for the Patriots, offensively, I give the edge to Tom Brady and all the weapons that he has. Josh Gordon getting more involved. Sony Michel looks like the real deal. James White is a heck of a pass-catching threat. Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski. Don't think the Bears will have enough guys to stop all of those weapons. And even though Mitchell Trubisky has looked, above average these last 2 weeks, I don't think it'll continue versus the New England Patriots. Just too much to keep up for when it comes to the Chicago Bears. Offensively, I don't think they have the same kind of firepower that the New England Patriots do. So I give the Patriots the advantage overall. I like them to win this game outright. On the spread, plus 3.5 for the Bears. I think the Patriots ultimately win by at least a touchdown. So give me the Patriots on the spread. Next up, we have got the Cleveland Browns at the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Browns 2-3-1 after that blowout loss to the Chargers, while the Bucks are at 2-3 after losing in what was an offensive showdown versus the Atlanta Falcons, and in a game where, as expected, the defense didn't show up for the Bucks and they just didn't make enough plays. But even with that said, they almost had a chance to win that game if it wasn't for a missed lateral by Deshaun Jackson right at the last couple of seconds. But regardless, looking at this matchup in particular, look, I do think the Bucks offense is better. I will take Jameis Winston over Baker Mayfield, but the fact of the matter is, even if it's a rookie in Baker Mayfield, this Tampa Bay defense is so bad that I think you can almost put both of these offenses on the same level, because I do think the Bucks defense is worse in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and say Baker Mayfield probably has one of his best games as a pro. And to me, the Browns defense has more playmakers at this point in time. I think they'll be able to make enough stops against the Bucks, and they'll be able to actually get the victory on the road here. So I like the Browns to win this game outright. I think it'll be a close game, but the Browns win it late. On the spread, minus 3.5 for the Bucks. So for that reason, I like the Browns on the spread. Moving right along, we've got the Detroit Lions at the Miami Dolphins. The Lions at 2-3 coming off of the bye week, while the Dolphins are 4-2 after that gritty win versus the Chicago Bears, led by Brock Osweiler of all people, in a game that could have been won by either side, but ultimately the Dolphins got it done in overtime. But looking at this matchup, as crazy as it sounds, I think the Lions are the prohibited favorite, and the big reason is because Osweiler most likely will start again for the injured Ryan Tannehill, and to me, that gives a big boost for the Lions. They get a nice matchup coming off the bye. Ultimately, Matthew Stafford over Brock Osweiler all day. I think the Lions defense can have a good matchup versus Osweiler, who I don't think will continue his streak of good offensive performances. I think he's due for several turnovers. I like the Detroit offense more so. They're more well-rounded, more stable, and more consistent. So for that reason, I give the Lions the edge all around in this matchup. I like them to go on the road, win this game outright. On the spread, it's pretty much a pick 'em, plus half a point for the Dolphins. For that reason, Lions on the spread. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings at the New York Jets. The Vikings are 3-2-1 after taking care of business versus the Arizona Cardinals, and the Jets are 3-3 after doing the same in an offensive showdown versus the Indianapolis Colts. And one thing is for sure, it seems like at this point in time, the Jets play more consistently, especially offensively at home. Unfortunately for them, they are dealing with several injuries at the wide receiver position. Anunwa and Pryor likely to miss this game. Onwenu can also miss several more weeks, it seems like, after this week, so that'll be interesting to keep our eyes on. But for now, it'll be the Robbie Anderson and the Jermaine Kershaw. I do think they are viable options, but I just ultimately don't think they have enough firepower to keep up with that Minnesota offense that is absolutely loaded. Kirk Cousins playing great. Thielen, you can't say enough good things about him. Hopefully Dalvin Cook finally returns and plays a full game. And defensively, you give the edge to the Minnesota Vikings. I think they can force several turnovers on Darnold. So I like the Vikings overall to win this game outright. On the spread, plus 3.5. I like the Vikings by at least a touchdown, so give me the Vikings on the spread. Continuing on, we have got the Carolina Panthers at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Panthers are 3-2 after a disappointing loss to the Washington Redskins, where they just committed too many turnovers in that game and couldn't come back ultimately. While the Philadelphia Eagles 3-3, and it looks like they're slowly but surely returning to that Eagles team from last year. Carson Wentz looks better and better every single week. Alshon Jeffrey becoming a bigger part of that offense, so on and so forth. Looking at this matchup, I got to give the edge, again, all around to the Eagles in my opinion. At home, I think that's a big advantage for the Eagles. Carson Wentz right now is just a better, more accurate passer than Cam Newton. The only area where I do see the Panthers having a potential advantage is the running game with Christian McCaffrey. I think if they want to win this game, they're going to have to dominate the rushing attack. But that Eagles defense is also figuring it out. I think both these defenses have enough playmakers. I think they're above average defenses, but I give the edge to the Eagles ultimately because they are at home. For that reason, I like the Eagles to win this game outright. On the spread, minus 4.5. I do think it will be a close game, but Eagles pull away late. Not necessarily by a touchdown. I think it'll be right by 3 or 4 points. And the spread, minus 4.5. So I will take the Panthers actually on the spread. Next, we have the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Texans 3-3, same as the Jaguars. Texans, though, coming off of a victory versus the Bills, while the Jaguars got completely blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. They let up 40 points. That is incredible to think when considering what this defense was in the early parts of the season and last year. So far, they are looking like a shell of themselves. The offense struggling as well. And who would have thought both these teams would have been 3-3 at this point in time? Now, this is a home game for the Jaguars. I don't like either of these offenses that much, to be honest with you, but I still think the Jaguars have the better defense. As bad as they have looked, I think a big part in some of their struggles last week is because of that Dallas offensive line, whereas this Houston offensive line is just on the other side of the spectrum. So I do think the Jaguars will have some success again defensively, and ultimately I do think the better defensive effort will win out on Sunday for these two teams. For that reason, I like the Jaguars to win this game outright. On the spread, minus 4.5. However, it's a little bit too high for me here. I will take the Texans on the spread. I could see this being a low-scoring affair, and that is going to favor the Texans. Moving on, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Baltimore Ravens. The Saints at 4-1 coming back from the bye week, while the Ravens 4-2 after that dominating win versus the Tennessee Titans defensively. And here, the Saints get a tough matchup coming back from the bye week. Probably one of the better defenses they've played so far. But regardless, I still give the edge to the Saints here, primarily because I think that offense is just so good. The 1-2 punch of Kamara and Ingram now that he's back, Michael Thomas, Drew Brees setting records left and right. I think that's going to overwhelm the Baltimore Ravens. I think they can put up 20-plus points on that Ravens defense. And then Joe Flacco is going to be baited into some mistakes. Ultimately, I think the Saints are one of the best teams in the league, right beside the LA Rams in the NFC. And for that reason, I think this is going to be a statement win for the Saints. I like them to win this game outright. On the spread, Ravens are actually favored minus 2.5, so give me the Saints on the spread. Next up, we've got an NFC divisional clash, the Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Redskins. Cowboys 3-3, Redskins 3-2, both coming off of nice victories. Cowboys demolishing the Jaguars, 40 points. Redskins, nice victory versus the Carolina Panthers. And the big question here is which offense of the Cowboys will show up? Because up until last week, this offense of the Cowboys looked like one of the worst in the league. I don't think they're going to be scoring 40 points on every team going forward now. I think a big factor here is if the Cowboys continue to run the option with Dak Prescott, that is their best chance offensively to make up for some lost talent at the wide receiver position. If they continue to do so, I see a possible turnaround for them. But for now, since I don't know what we're going to see offensively from the Dallas Cowboys, I have to give the slight edge to the Washington Redskins. Honestly, this one is a very tough one for me to predict. It just so depends on game management and game situations, game flow, specifically from the Dallas Cowboys standpoint. It's a pick 'em to me, but I give the slight edge to the Washington Redskins. I think ultimately one of these games will go to the Redskins, one will go to the Cowboys. It'll be a split series. So I'll take Washington at home to win this game and outright on the spread -1.5. Ultimately, I will go with the Redskins to go ahead, win by at least a field goal. I think it'll be a very close game, decided late, but the Redskins take it. Continuing on, we've got another NFC divisional clash, the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams 6-0, the lone undefeated team in the NFL, while the 49ers 1-5. Tough loss versus the Green Bay Packers after Rodgers led the Packers from behind to win that game. The defense just couldn't keep him down, and I think that'll be an issue again versus the Rams, who have an absolutely loaded offense. Gurley, Goff, I think both have big weeks. Even though Kupp is injured, set to miss this game, I think the Rams still have plenty of firepower. The defense, I expect a nice game from them. And even though this is a divisional game, I think the two teams that play each other the toughest in this division are the Rams and the Seahawks. So I think the Rams will still be able to take care of business versus the 49ers squad that is just so injured, unfortunately. I'll take the Rams outright on the road. The spread pretty high, +10.5. But I think the Rams can win by at least 11 points, so I'll take the Rams on the spread. Getting to Sunday Night Football, we've got a great AFC showdown. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. Bengals 4-2, the Chiefs 5-1. And with the Bengals, man, tough loss versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last second loss. Antonio Brown and Big Ben working their magic. While the Kansas City Chiefs got the first loss as we predicted last week versus the New England Patriots in what was an incredibly intense and fun game to watch, back and forth. And I think this one has the potential to be the same. The Chiefs defense is going to let up points. The Bengals offensively, they've been clicking, and I think it'll be back and forth yet again. Ultimately, since this is a road game for the Bengals and the Chiefs are at home, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Chiefs. If it was a game in Cincinnati, I would actually take the Bengals. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people expect. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals upset the Chiefs here. I do think it'll be close. I think it'll be high scoring, but I give the Chiefs the home field advantage. Arrowhead, very tough place to go ahead and play in. I'll take the Chiefs to win outright. On the spread, however, -5.5 for the Chiefs. I'll take the Bengals. I'll take the under on the spread. I think the Bengals keep it close and keep it interesting. And finally, getting to Monday Night Football, we've got the New York Giants at the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams under 500. Giants at 1-5, Falcons at 2-4. But I do think they are both heading in different directions, these two teams. I think the Giants are destined for a tough season, while the Falcons, I think they're going to bounce back from that tough start, and I could see them making the playoffs. I actually have them as a team that I think will be a wild card team in the NFC when it's all said and done because of that offense. Their defense is one that can be exposed, and it's actually why I think this will be a really interesting game to watch. Even though the combined win total of these teams is 3 games, I think the Giants can have a nice game versus that Falcons defense. I like Eli Manning's potential in this game to have a big, productive game. Evan Ingram set to come back. Saquon Barkley will always be a factor. I think Odell Beckham has another big game. But ultimately, I just have more faith in Matt Ryan as the quarterback for the Falcons. Both these teams have plenty of weapons offensively. The Falcons do take a hit with Devonta Freeman being put on IR, unfortunately. But look, we've seen it before. We saw it last year. Coleman will be able to go ahead, carry the load. Ito Smith has looked good, so not too worried about that. At home, I give the advantage to the Falcons. I like them to win this game outright. And on the spread, -6.5. I think when it's all said and done, the Falcons will be able to pull away from the Giants. Giants keep it interesting for about 3 quarters, maybe 3.5 quarters, but then Falcons win out, cover the spread, win by at least a touchdown. So with that, we finish up our pick'em games. Now looking at our locks of the week, I want to start with the Tennessee Titans versus the LA Chargers in England. I'll take the Chargers all day here. That offense right now is just one of the top units in the league, while the Titans, it is tough to trust them. Marcus Mariota versus Phillip Rivers. To me, it's easy. Go with Rivers. He has so many more playmakers around him. The Melvin Gordon show will continue in Week 7. I'll take the Chargers. Then New England at the Chicago Bears. Give me Tom Brady versus Mitchell Trubisky all day. I'll take Brady to win this game, and I like the Patriots to go ahead, get another victory here. Continuing on, Minnesota at the New York Jets. Give me the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Jets have too many injuries right now at the wide receiver position. Minnesota will be able to go ahead, exploit that. Their offense is right now, again, one of the top units in the league. Defensively, I think they will make Sam Darnold commit a couple of mistakes, so I like the Vikings. Moving on, the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. Look, unfortunately, the 49ers, they've had too many injuries this season. Tough to see, but they have taken the expected hit, and I think they will continue to do so Week 7. Rams, just the best team in the league right now, and I think they continue their role with another victory. And finally, Falcons versus the Giants at home. Falcons, I think right now are just the better team overall. I think the Giants will be one of the worst teams in the NFL the way that they're heading right now. Falcons continue to turn their season around and get a victory at home. And with that, we finish up this video. So let me know what you guys thought. Did you agree with these picks, with the locks of the week? Let me hear it in the comments section, along with any other questions you guys might have. And as always, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in future videos.